startup ecosystem, what the idea is that you have to learn how to pitch your idea clearly and concisely. And once you learn how to do that, then you can bring in all the stakeholders and you can get into programs that'll help you and train you on how to build it. But that first step is you have to design a business model that is desirable.
When I initially moved back to Pensacola, I had a meeting with Lloyd. Lloyd invited me for breakfast and I was telling him, man, I still have an idea for the entertainment industry. This is what I wanted to do. He was like, all right, I got Startup on the Blocks. So I need you to start coming to Startup on the Blocks and get a little more information on how to work through the tech ecosystem and take your idea and we'll get you where you need to go. My company is called The Know, is an app that is streamlining business for the entertainment industry. Yeah, so if you're a musician, what you would do is pretty much jump on the platform, you'll create a profile, but the way we created the profile is pretty much a cleaner way. So now if they want more information about you, you'll connect your social media platforms, your streaming platforms, and that way they can go directly to it. What we also have included is your calendar. So pretty much you can set your days, you can set your price for your days and automate your booking. So initially talking to Lloyd, my idea was all here, it was there, it was over here, it was over there. It was like, all right, Quinn, I get it. You got a lot that you want to do, but we need you to bring it in just a little bit and then work on your pitch, your story, and how you're going to bring it full circle to get people to understand what you're trying to create.
Most of the programs here wasn't inclusive, and so we said we'll focus on helping founders of color. We also start at the beginning of the thing, at the idea stage, whereas a lot of the programs you see here locally, they start after you're up, and that's not very efficient unless if you don't have a lot of money, you can't recover from your mistakes. And the lean startup system, it actually helps you make mistakes faster before you spend a lot of money. You don't actually start building anything until you got customer buy-in.
There was a need for small businesses to bring brand awareness to their business. I see there's a lot of makers and bakers that they're making all of these goodies and these products, but they can't market it, they can't sell it at the same time, and there needs to be kind of that middleman, that middle person to help bring economic growth to some of the small businesses in Pensacola. So Taste of Pensacola, I came up with that idea during the pandemic when I saw things at that time that Amazon couldn't fulfill. They didn't even have those products, but the local people in the community, they did. And so there was a ton of people coming out saying, hey, I make masks. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. All the local people here that are just as talented that can actually make those products. And so I wanted to kind of showcase who they were. So with Taste of Pensacola, our income streams, we have several of them. We have the corporate America, we do corporate gifting, just regular consumers, different Pensacola natives that don't live here that want to purchase our boxes, like a taste of weddings, distribution. So we also do bulk sales. So for a private airline, if they want some local snacks and goodies on their passenger flights, they will come to Taste of Pensacola and we will source their vendors here locally. And we'll give a small business owner an opportunity to have reoccurring monthly sales. I've always had a really big vision for Taste of Pensacola. I knew that it could go beyond just local. I know that maybe other communities could possibly use the same platform that I'm trying to build. And I always have these big visions, but I never know how to even get there. Where do I start? I know it's more than, there's a lot of technical things behind it. I know there's a lot of research, but that connection, I never had it until, thankfully, I met and was introduced to Startups on the Blocks and was able to just learn more about how to grow it in terms of data. Things I just never thought about, framework, words like traction. There's a lot of things that I just did not know about in language that I need to know in order to get funding for my business. There's just a lot that I didn't know.
I would go to the stores and look online. They didn't have a wide variety of natural hair products about 8 years ago. And the ones that they did have, the ingredients, it would say that they were all natural. And when I would research the ingredients, a lot of the ingredients were not natural. I make everything, my shampoo, conditioner, I have an oil that I make, and I have 2 different separate butters. Like I had some people who were completely bald and grew their hair. It's about giving women their confidence back in their hair. I have this salon and I have a second salon, and I have my products in about 5 beauty supply stores. So I need a manufacturer to keep up with the demand at this point. Startup on the Blocks has helped my business grow, send me to different people. I'm able to do different pitch competitions to apply for grants in the community for small businesses. Lloyd's a really good person to connect with. He has a lot of resources here in the community that can help small businesses grow. If you have a product out there and you're trying to go big time, he's the person that you would want to meet with.
So it's really important to have some type of support because 9 times out of 10, most founders start out on their own. And to have somebody that has an idea of how the ecosystem works and is able to tap into other resources and bring back to the community, and that pretty much has encountered some of the roadblocks or going through the same roadblocks that we're currently going through and understands where you're at, your culture and how you respond to things, is a big help because you don't really have too many people that have access to what we have access to here in the community. And a lot of people believe that you have to leave and go to bigger cities to do the things that we're doing here. But I mean, it's one thing to have exposure, but you have to actually know it's here in the community in order to take advantage of the resources. So I get approached and I talk to friends all the time that wants to either start an idea or hear that I'm actually doing the app and wants to know more information about how are you doing it or what's the process, what's the path. I'm like, man, we have somebody here, Startup on the Blocks, Lloyd Richard. And Lloyd is here, he's a great resource to the community and to founders that's trying to learn the ecosystem. So join Startup on the Blocks.
Yes, yes. How's everybody today? Happy Thursday. We're here for another Startup Founder Best Practices. I'm glad to have you all here. Please share this streaming on your social media channels, and so we can get some more founders with some great information. So it's been pretty busy the last 2 or 3 weeks with conferences and stuff, and speaking engagements. But been learning a lot from just sharing. And tonight we're as a result of what I've been hearing out there, being on panels and over the past year and a half, actually, and so I finally decided I may want to set the record straight on some of the stuff about AIs and how you and founders can actually use it. And so tonight I just see the best way to say this. I'll just share my screen here because I got I got a thing here that let's see, to our window, and we can get to the bottom of this. Yeah. So what I hear a lot of time this people say, yeah, I can't do that. I even remember last year I went to a conference and one of the topics was AI and project management. But when I got to the event, the guys already just said, AI can't do this, AI can't do that. And it's sort of, I say it might be better to my knowledge, AI can't do that, or maybe AI can't do that yet. And so tonight we're going to distill that down a little bit, so to kind of show you where the opportunities in that. So, but because there are a lot of things you can do with AI and things you can do personally that can really have a big impact. So I want to talk about that tonight. Yes. Okay, so let's go here. So I want to give a quick shout out to the folks we've been partnering with in the past and still partnering with, and just trying to create an opportunity for people with ideas and want to learn the best practices for building a startup. And so we don't care if you're doing a nonprofit, a mom and pop shop, or doing the scalable business model. But our job is to teach you how to do the scalable business model. And once you really understand that, you might say, well, if I can do, if it's going to take the same amount of effort and I can do a lot better with the scalable business model, why would I just want to do the business model that doesn't scale? But everybody has their own preference, and I don't have a problem with that. But these organizations and companies that you see on here, they played an instrumental role in helping us help founders learn about these things. And I just want to make sure we recognize them. And so these folks here, they help us pay the bills. And so we appreciate that support, and also some of them we partner with as well. And through their support, we can offer these different training platforms, and they each have their own unique things that way that they can actually help founders. And so uh, so I say take the best out of all of them, and try to move forward. And we use Lean Stack as the foundation, because that's where you building a model, a business model, a business planning. And so it's just like, if you were going to get a house built, and so I don't know if you can compare a house to a business or not, but you would go out and hire an architect to design that house, and a builder to actually build it. But most people jump into business without doing a whole lot of planning. But this Lean Stack is the kind of a way you can actually design your business and get it on a good foundation, so it'll last a long time. Now the startup science, it's a totally different perspective, and it's a neat perspective. It's a great perspective, and it's all based on this idea. When you get an idea for a startup, from that idea to your exit, you building with the exit in mind, and the program is just teaching you how to go through these different phases, so you can make sure there's going to be somebody ready to buy your company at the other end. And co-founder OS is from Make Startups. They did a really great job and they saw the problem was, as we did too, when you're going to apply for a pitch competition, or you're going to try to get in a program that's going to give you money, or you're applying for a bank loan or something. So their whole thing is grading on how well you answer the question. They use AI to actually grade on how well you fill out the application, and then give you feedback and train you how to communicate your business, where you can get the money and the resources you need to go forward. And so patent hacks here, the last thing on this thing is, so like when in Lean Stack and all of these things, so when you build a scalable business model, and if you want it to scale at 10x, you're going to have to do some innovation. And I was judging a pitch competition, was it last Wednesday or the Wednesday before? It's a $50,000 pitch competition, and one of the founders, his growth rate was he said it was 100x, so basically 2x, but it grow 100%, but so that's basically 2x growth rate. And I said, well, and he's out looking for money. I said, well, there are a lot of startups out there that are growing at a 10x rate, and you're growing at a 2x rate. Who do you think the investor is going to put money in? And so that's kind of the way you look at it. A lot of us want money, but when there's so many other companies out there that are growing at a faster rate than you, why should an investor or a bank or whoever put money in your idea? So that's why we try to teach people how to do a scalable business model. So the point is, when you in order to scale at that higher rate, you're going to have to innovate. And so that's where the patent hacks come in. So to protect your innovation. And so we are offering that, and we'll be offering it through the Black Innovation Leaders of Florida until the end of I think to the end of January, I believe. But so if you see the link there, cuckooinstitute.org, get started. That's your opportunity to get to learn about the trademarks and the patents. And we have some some scholarships to file for your trademark or your patent. So definitely try to take advantage of that. But tonight I'm not going to hold you all long, and so the news the other day is became a new grandfather today, and so we got Rob and I got a grandson, Achilles Jackson Richard, my son Theron, and his wife Hope. Had a healthy baby boy today around noon, so we're excited for them. And I'm gonna tell you a little story about AI, and I've used this story about children in the past, so you can actually kind of get the gist of it. Yes. So just ask yourself, how much do I know about AI? How much do I know what it's capable of doing? And so today we're going back to this idea of, like I said earlier, when I'm out and about, and even in some of the recent things over the past weekend, I heard the term AI can't do that. And so, I always say it's a better way to say is maybe it can't do that yet. But this particular thing I want to share today, I'm just going to do a series of videos, and if you can have the ability to put them in the chat and ask questions, feel free to do so. So first, I'm going to kind of do like a little introduction. I created a briefing, but I'm using the explainer videos to kind of help you decipher the information a little bit better. And I'll pull the first one up. And so if you have the ability to put some in the chat on Facebook or I'm not sure if you can do that on LinkedIn or not, but it should help. All right, so I'll pull the first one up here. It's about 5 minutes. And the idea here is after these series of things I'm going to show you tonight, you won't have any question about the foundation of AI, because it explains it fairly well. All right, here goes the first one.
You know that feeling, right? You're trying to get an AI to do something that seems totally simple, and it just falls flat on its face. It is so frustrating. Well, in this explainer, we're going to dig into why that happens, and more importantly, why every single one of those failures is actually a massive opportunity, just waiting to be grabbed.
Yeah, I think we've all muttered this under our breath. And you know what? It's a completely fair question. We're constantly told how revolutionary these systems are, but then sometimes they can't even nail the basics. So, what is actually going on here? So before we get to the opportunities, and trust me, there are a lot of them, we first have to understand the limits. We're going to pull back the curtain on why these AI failures happen. And I promise, it's not because the AI is dumb. The real reason is way more interesting.
To really get it, we need to peek under the hood at the fundamental tech. Now don't worry, we are not about to get lost in a sea of complicated code. Instead, we're going to use a really simple but powerful analogy to see what's happening.
Okay, here's the one and only technical term we really need to know: artificial neural networks, or ANNs. Now the key phrase here is universal function approximators. That sounds super fancy, but all it really means is that they're designed to figure out the relationship, or the mapping, between almost any input and any output you can imagine.
Let's make that even simpler. Forget the jargon. Just think of an AI as a mapping machine. That's its whole job. It takes one thing, an input, and it maps it to another thing, an output. That's it. That's the core idea. So how do these machines learn to do that mapping? This is the really cool part. They don't follow a list of rules that some programmer wrote out. No. They learn by looking at millions, sometimes billions of examples. So for it to map a photo to the words cat on a sofa, it literally has to see countless pictures of cats on sofas until it finally understands the pattern. It's learning by seeing, not by being told.
And this right here, this gets us to the root cause of our frustration. When an AI messes up, it's almost always one of two things. One, there's a data gap. It just hasn't seen enough relevant examples to build a good map. Or two, there's a design flaw. The way the neural network is built just isn't right for that specific job. So, the key takeaway is, it's a training problem, not a thinking problem.
All right, now we're at the turning point. We get the limits, we get the frustrations, but what if we just reframed them? This is where we bring in what might just be the single most important word for any founder or innovator in this entire space. Just listen to the difference. AI can't do that. That feels like a brick wall, right? A dead end. But AI can't do that yet? That's a challenge. It's a promise. That one tiny word completely changes everything and opens up a whole universe of possibilities.
That little word, yet, is basically a giant flashing signpost. It's pointing you directly to where the future is going. A limitation today isn't a permanent roadblock. It's just a problem that nobody has solved. It's a temporary gap, an open invitation for someone, maybe you, to come in and build the bridge.
So let's connect this directly to a founder's mindset. Because if you're an entrepreneur, or you want to be one, this perspective isn't just some nice idea. It's your actual roadmap to creating a valuable business. This is it. This is the core takeaway. I want you to burn this idea into your brain. Every single time you find yourself getting annoyed at what an AI can't do, you should hear a little bell going off in your head. That's not a complaint. That's a business plan just waiting for someone to write it.
And look, the opportunity here isn't just about tweaking some code or making a model a little bit better. The real game changer, the billion-dollar idea, is in creating entirely new mappings that have never existed before. It's about connecting an input to an output in a totally novel way that solves a real problem for the first time.
This is an active role. You can't just sit around and wait for one of the big tech companies to figure it out. This is a specific job for founders, to see that gap, to see that yet, and to be the one who builds the innovative solution that fills. Okay, so how do you actually do it? How do you train your brain to stop seeing failures and start spotting these opportunities? Well, it all comes down to adopting a very specific mindset, a new way of looking at the world around you. This is the question. This is the question you should be asking yourself constantly. When you're at work, when you're dealing with some clunky, frustrating process, when you see something that's just inefficient, stop and ask, okay, what's the input here? What's the output I really want? And what's the mapping that needs to be built to connect the two? And listen, this is not just a technical skill. You do not have to be a machine learning genius to come up with these ideas. It all starts with simple curiosity. It's about being willing to explore what could be possible, even if the tools aren't quite there yet. So here's a simple 4-step process you can use. First, find the frustration. Find the can't. Second, play detective and diagnose the problem. Is it a data thing or a design thing? Third, dream a little. Envision the perfect mapping that would solve it all. And then finally, step 4, go build it. So we'll end with this challenge. The next time an AI gets something wrong, don't just sigh and close the window. Stop for a second. See it for what it truly is, an invitation, a puzzle just waiting for you to solve it. So ask yourself, what's your yet?
Fantastic. Yeah. So we're going to dive into each one of those things a little deeper. So don't feel bad if you actually miss some of it. But in general, this mapping, which we'll cover next, is kind of like a key thing. And so in most of my talks I say, well, using AI, you can map anything to anything. So, and to give you an example, like my grandson, he's only a few hours old, but he's going to, start seeing his mother on a daily basis, his father on a daily basis, and occasionally he'll see me, his grandfather, and his grandmothers, and so. But what all it's doing, when you teaching who mom is, you're just mapping the word mom for him to his brain. So it's just a mapping. And so when they call me granddad or whatever, it's just all you doing is in his brain, he's relating these images of his family, and it's being tagged. And so this mapping that this neural net is doing, it's the same thing. It's literally mapping some information to some other information. And for each of you as an individual, you have a certain expertise, and some of it you can't even explain. But with AI, you can all you need to do is what you're an expert at is you can use this AI, artificial neural networks, to actually extract your knowledge, and then you can make money with it, but just through this concept of mapping. So when, like, if you know, if you're an expert in gardening, you can look at a plant or whatever and say what's all wrong with it. And so all someone has to do is show you pictures of several plants, and you tell your answers about that. So they map the images from the plants to your answers, and now you got a ANN that can be turned into code that into a thing where you use your phone, you see that type plant, and it automatically tells you what's wrong with it. It's literally that simple. If you an expert at judging whether somebody did a good presentation or not, same process work. You score the presentation, and so yeah, it's the same process. So you can actually take your knowledge and kind of move forward. So next, let's just dive into the mapping a little bit, and feel free to ask questions in the chat. So I'll show you a little explain about the mapping, but it's going to repeat what the idea of the neural network is, but I think it'll help you reinforce if you're not familiar with it.
You've heard it a million times, right? Someone says AI can't do that, and you think, okay, another limitation, another failure. But today, we're going to flip that script entirely. We're going to see how that can't isn't a dead end. It's actually the starting line for the next huge opportunity.
This right here, this is the whole game. This is the big idea we're diving into. Every single time an AI messes up or falls short, it is not a failure. It's an invitation. It's a giant flashing sign pointing directly to an open door for innovation.
So to really get why these so-called failures are actually opportunities in disguise, we need to pop the hood and see what AI is really doing. And you know what? The core concept is surprisingly simple. It all comes down to one thing: mapping. Okay, so at the heart of almost all the cool AI stuff we see today are these things called artificial neural networks, or ANNs. Now, the super technical term is universal function approximators, which, yeah, sounds complicated, but the idea is actually beautiful. Imagine you could learn to bake any cake in the world perfectly just by tasting thousands of examples without ever reading a single recipe. That's kind of what an ANN does. It learns to figure out any relationship, not because it was given a rule book, but because it found the patterns in the data all by itself. So how does this actually work? Well, it's pretty straightforward. ANNs learn by example. Lots and lots of examples. You don't program an AI with the dictionary definition of cat. You just show it a million pictures of cats, and it starts to figure out the essence of catness on its own. You feed it countless translated sentences, and it starts to internalize the rhythm and patterns of a language. It's all about learning from what's already happened to figure out what should happen next. So here's the most important takeaway from all this. At its core, every AI system is basically a mapping machine. That's it. It takes an input, that could be a question, a picture of your cat, a sentence in Spanish, and its entire job is to map that input to the right output, the answer, the word cat, or that same sentence in English. Think of it like a master bridge builder, always trying to connect your request to its answer. Okay, so now that we get this whole AI is a mapper idea, we can look at its limits in a completely new way. And this brings us to what might be the single most important word in this entire conversation. This one, this little word yet. AI can't do that yet. Just adding that one word completely transforms the meaning. It changes a statement of failure into a statement of possibility. It turns a period at the end of a sentence into a comma. A brick wall becomes just another step on the path. So why is this so important? Well, because most of AI's current limitations aren't, fundamental laws of the universe. They're usually just practical problems. A data gap isn't a failure. It's an invitation to go out and find or even create that missing data. A design flaw isn't a dead end. It's a challenge that sparks a more creative solution. That word, yet, is the signpost pointing you directly toward the next big thing. And this, right here, is where we get to the founder's mindset. This is where we connect the dots, directly from what AI can't do to what you can go out and build. This is where limitation becomes your greatest opportunity. Let's just pause on this for a second and really think about it. When an AI totally misses the context of our conversation, or it can't handle a complex reasoning task, or it just gives a bizarre answer to a creative prompt, what is it actually telling us? This really nails the mindset shift. See, most people look at an AI and see a brick wall, a flawed tool with obvious limitations. But a founder sees a treasure map. They see the specific data that's missing. They see the exact design that needs a clever fix. To them, it's not a problem, it's a project just waiting to be started. So here's the big takeaway for any innovator out there. Your job isn't just to use the AI tools that are already out there. Your real job is to build the next set of bridges. It's to create the brand new mappings that connect an unsolved problem to a brilliant solution. You know, the mappings that just don't exist yet. All right, so let's bring it all home. How do you actually make this way of thinking a part of your daily routine? How do you train yourself to start seeing opportunities where everyone else just sees errors? It really boils down to one thing: curiosity. It's not just about being curious about what AI can do right now, but having this relentless curiosity about what's just over the horizon. It's about living right on the edge of what's possible and constantly asking, okay, but what's next? And so I want to leave you with this final, really critical question. The next time you see an AI fail or get something wrong, don't just sigh and move on. Stop for a second and ask yourself, what mapping is missing here? What connection hasn't been built yet? Because the answer to that question, well, it just might be your next great idea.
Well, I'm going to give you an example of how we use this mapping concept with uh, business models and what we do in our business model design course and our demand validation course. And so this idea of mapping something and to something. So what you see here is basically just a one-page business plan, the lean canvas, and it talks about creating value, delivering capturing value, delivering and measuring value. So it's a pretty neat thing. So what we do is we map your business idea to this lean canvas with AI. But I'll just quickly go through this. And so when we're doing business model design and going through the lean stack, we're looking at your idea and what kind of your financial goal is, and what based on your pricing, what's the customer sizing, and the market sizing, and how does that match with the pricing you're charging based on the number of customers you're going to get. And also, once you finish designing your model, then what we have what's called this model founder fit. But then when you transition from that business model design and designing the scalable business model, you start doing this demand validation. And these last three columns are demand validation. And so you're doing problem discovery, solution design, sales pitch, and going to launch an MVP. So what we did, this is some kind of like a roadmap to the process. You kind of do this thing first. You have your big idea. You break it up into customer segments or variants. Then you do stress testing for desirability. What each of these customer segments want, what you got based on the customer segment, the problem they have, and what they're currently using to solve that problem, and how much value you can bring to them. And then the viability is based on your pricing model and your metrics and your goal. And same thing with stress testing for feasibility. And then after you do that, you build what is called a business model story pitch, and so on. Then you go into what we were just talking about, was the demand validation here in the pink. And so what we did was we decided to map your business idea and take it through this whole process with one prompt. And so let me see if I can get to that. Yeah, and so first we started out with this business idea prompt, and we identified, the first thing we did, identify the stakeholders. And you might say, well, why do you want to identify the stakeholders? So me being a, a, a former researcher at the Air Force Research Lab, you have to know everybody, what's the state of the art of what's going on in your field or whatever your technology you're building. In this case, you're going into business. And so the first thing what you want to do is know who all the stakeholders are and what their pain points. So, and basically in the reason for this, when you have a business idea, it's not an island to itself. There's a lot of other levels. You know, may have supply distributors, and they may have manufacturers, and then you have customers, and so it's a whole supply chain in order for your business to work. My daughter and her husband is in the you know, they make car keys over in Africa for the new cars, and so they have there's a manufacturer in that supply chain, there's a distributor, and then they're kind of like a vendor, and then they have customers. And so that's the first thing you want to do, is to identify all their pain points, because when you're solving the pain points for your customer, you may also have a way to solve the pain points for other people in that supply chain, and that's where it breaks opportunity. So and so from your one business idea in the industry, we do these steps here. That was our original prompt. And then now here's the stress testing part of what you saw. We used AI to do the stress testing. And then now we use this 27-step prompt. And in addition to going through from left to right through the pink, it's also doing the marketing strategy. So what happens is when you give put your business idea in the prompt and the industry, it generates all these artifacts all the way through here. And so where so it just helps the founder, you know, do stuff. So it's kind of where and what's unique about this, I hear a lot of people, and I do a lot of things, that's where I use AI in my business. That's fantastic, and that's good, and you're getting benefit. But what we're doing is we're mapping it to a whole framework, a process. So you're not prompting in a vacuum. You're prompting through this whole business planning and development process. And so it's a really strong approach when you're using a framework, and then instead of just doing a prompt here and a prompt there. So everything everything builds upon, each step builds upon the next step, and so we're just using this to speed up that. And that's all I'll say about this. And so let's just take a look at what this idea yet. And so what I originally hate about this word yet, what I love about it, you know, was that I don't hate it. What I love about it is people just need to be, once you understand this mapping thing, what you need to realize is that as AI gets more capable, based on this mapping idea, you can map anything. And like over the weekend, the lady was saying, "Well, AI can't do emotion." When I worked for the government, we were using AI to determine people's emotion, like over 20 years ago. I've been retired like 12 years, and way before I retired, all you're doing is just mapping expressions, emotions, and to you know, to like the word like sad. You map that to short a lot of things that are sad, but it's the same thing as all these sentiment things. So yeah, and so you just have to be careful when you say AI can't do something. Just, it's safer to say I don't, based on what I know, it can't do that. But you know what I'm telling you, you can map anything to anything, and everything in our world is patterns. And so as long as you got the most powerful enough artificial neural network trainer, you can map anything to anything. So just, yeah, because like even here in Pensacola, they were saying that a programmer's job had a low risk of being automated. This is 2019. So now a coder, a programmer, the AI can do code. So people were 5 years saying, hey, AI can't do that. So just remember the point I'm trying to make here. So let's dig into this yet part for a few minutes here.
Hey everyone, so we've all heard someone say it, right? Oh, AI could never do that. But what if that's the completely wrong way to look at it? Today, we're going to flip that idea on its head and see AI's limitations not as roadblocks, but as a genuine, bona fide roadmap for innovation.
So let's just kick things off with this one big question. What if every single time you see an AI mess up, you're not actually seeing a flaw, you're getting an invitation? You're seeing an opportunity that's just sitting there, waiting for someone to grab it. That's the big idea we're going to unpack.
All right, so to spot these opportunities, we have to get back to basics. We need to understand what AI at its core really does. And you can forget all the crazy sci-fi stuff. At its heart, AI is what we're going to call a mapping machine. And trust me, getting this one concept is the key to everything else.
Okay, I know this sounds super technical, but the idea behind it is actually pretty simple. Artificial neural networks, which are basically the engines driving most modern AI, are what's known as universal function approximators. All that means is, instead of being programmed with a bunch of strict hard-coded rules, they learn by just seeing millions of examples and figuring out the patterns for themselves.
Now, the key word here is universal. What that really means is that if you give a neural network enough of the right data, it can theoretically learn to approximate any pattern. It's just learning how to connect the dots, how to get from some kind of input to the right output, even when that connection is ridiculously complex. It's all about learning to generalize.
And this right here is the perfect way to think about it. An AI doesn't really understand a picture of a cat, you know? It just takes the input, which is just a massive grid of pixels, and it maps it to the correct output, the simple word cat. This is exactly how the first image recognition systems were built. They were fed millions of labeled pictures until they could reliably map the pixel patterns of a cat to the word cat. It's just a very, very sophisticated mapping machine.
So now that we're thinking of AI as this mapping machine, you can start to see why its current limits aren't really permanent walls. And that brings us to maybe the single most important word in this whole conversation.
Right? We hear the first part of that sentence all the time. But the most powerful word on this screen, the one that is just packed with opportunity for every founder, for every innovator out there, is yet. That one little word completely changes a statement of failure into a promise of what's coming next. And here's the critical thing to get. When an AI fails, it's almost never because it's fundamentally incapable. It's a training issue. It means there's either a gap in the data it learned from, or there's a flaw in how the model was designed. And those gaps, well, that's where innovation comes from. That's what sparks creativity. Okay, so this is where we get to the playbook. How do, as a founder, as a builder, as anyone with an idea, turn this whole insight into a real business? How do you actually go out and capitalize on the yet?
This is the bottom line. Every single time you hear AI can't do that, you should be hearing the cha-ching of a cash register. Think about it. When early AIs couldn't read a medical scan as well as a radiologist, that can't was a massive, blinking sign that pointed to an opportunity. An opportunity for companies to build specialized AIs with the right medical data. That failure wasn't a flaw. It was a market waiting to be born.
So your job, your mission, is to become a kind of map maker for this new world. You need to be the one who finds the inputs and outputs that nobody has successfully connected yet. Your job is to go out there and build the AI that finally creates that new mapping. And here it is, a super simple 3-step playbook. First, find something valuable that current AIs are just bad at. Step 2, and this is the really clever part, you have to ask yourself, okay, what's the mapping that's missing here? What data needs to connect to what outcome? And then, step 3 is simple. Go build it. Go find the data, design the model, and be the one to create that new connection. Now, this playbook is great, but it only really works if you have the right mindset behind it. This isn't just about being a technical wizard. It's about having a deep-seated curiosity. So, you need to start asking this question everywhere.
At your job, when you're pursuing a hobby, in all the little frustrations of your daily life. Just look at the world and constantly ask yourself what connections, what translations, what mappings are just sitting there waiting for an AI to be built for them.
Because at the end of the day, that's what moves the needle. The next giant leap in AI isn't going to come from just making the current models a little bit bigger. No way. It's going to come from someone who is just relentlessly curious, someone who looks at a problem everyone else has written off and says, I wonder if there's another way.
And that really brings us to the final thought here. Every huge AI company you can name today was built on solving a problem that people once thought was impossible. The next one is going to be exactly the same. It'll be built on one of today's AI can't statements. So the only real question is, which one are you going to solve?
Cool. Yes, that's right. Which one are you going to solve? Where's your opportunity? And so daily in my news feeds, Google search feeds, and I use some other tools that sort of lets me know what companies are getting funded. But every day there's some new company that's doing something that I never thought of, or some niche in the market, and they figured out a way to map these things to these things that haven't been done yet, and they figure out how to do it, and they're getting funded. And so every one of us has knowledge and have experience or work somewhere, and you solve these problems, and that's where all these opportunities are. And literally, you just need to reach out, and you don't have to know how to use AI. There's plenty help on that kind of stuff. So if you got some type of expertise or some problem, and so I say think big, and kind of move forward. I've seen local founders here that have ideas that are great, but just because they don't know how to do it, they don't work on it. It's that's not the way it works. You build a business model around what your idea is, and pitch that business model. That's what attracts people to help you. If you can't articulate how you can make money with your business idea, it's going to be hard to get people to help you. And so, and what we've done over the past few years, we through this lean stack framework, we've got the process on how you evaluate and stress test an idea, and so over the past year and a half or two, we've been leveraging AI to help you do that faster. And so, yeah, but that's what it's all about. And so the Ash Murray is the one that came up with the Lean Canvas and the Lean Stack platform. And so he's launching a new product called Lean Spark. And yeah, let me show you. Put this back up here. And literally, this is to show you what this product is all about. So, like when you building a business model with this one-page business plan here, you have to validate every assumption you made when you identify the customer segment, the problem the customer segment has. You have to evaluate, validate what you said in each block, and so in most cases you have to do some validation experiments, and so the question is, what experiments do I need to do here to validate these customer segments or the problem that those customer segments have? What do I need to do to validate the pricing that I'm charging? So he's literally creating what he calls Lean Spark, and he knows all the questions you need to ask about these blocks, and he's mapping these things that you need to do to validate or or what a coach would help you with this business model. He's actually mapping. He's got all the stuff questions you need to ask here, and he's literally creating a map Lean Spark is just a way to guide you through on how to make sure you're doing the right pricing, what validation experiments you need to do, all this stuff. It's literally that simple. That's what he's using AI to do, just to speed up your validation process. And so myself as a coach, I'm a level 3 coach, so I don't have to spend so many times meeting with the founder. Now I can use this Lean Spark tool to help the founder along the way. And so that's what the deal is there. So that's just one example. Now, one thing that I didn't mention yet, part of what also brought me to this idea to kind of present this today is that I have this habit of recording, all the workshops I go through to, like this morning I went to a keynote on marketing using AI. Yesterday I went to a venture capital thing about AI, and also another workshop at the EntreCon about the Gen Z stuff. And then, like over the weekend, with the training that Black Innovation Leaders of Florida was doing down in St. Pete, I recorded all of those sessions. But I never read any of the transcripts from those things. What I do, I take the transcript and run this prompt, where just a simple prompt, and just say, what are the key takeaways and what are the insights from those key takeaways, and how can I, in what we're doing here at the Kukui Institute, what action can we take from the takeaways? And so one of the actions from the workshop this weekend down in St. Pete was this idea about this AI can't do this, and so the takeaway for me was that I'm working with founders, and I know this idea about can't do it yet. And so what can I do to help founders understand this? So from that one thing, the speaker may have said that wasn't totally correct. It was partially correct, but wasn't totally correct. So the takeaway from that for me was that I need to explain to people what this artificial neural networks are, and so they can see the opportunity in it, and because otherwise you're being misled to think that that you're safe or whatever. But what this idea is that you have an opportunity and you need to take advantage of the opportunity. So that's what that prompt does, and believe it or not, that's just adding takeaways, insights, and actions for you as a founder. You get more benefit out of what was said, and some things are subtle and you won't catch them. That's where the AI comes in at, and so that's so that and the AI generates that in a matter of seconds, and so that and so these takeaways and insights, that's what these little short videos I'm showing you, that's I dump those insights, takeaways from insight, and let create a little explainer video just to help you as a founder. And so I'll show this last one, and it's basically what this is. It's actually the takeaway that what a founder should do based on this insight. So let me go ahead and show that.
You've heard it a million times, right? Oh, AI can't do that. It's usually said like it's the end of the story. But what if the most important part of that sentence isn't what's said, but what's left out?
So let's start with a big idea, one that's going to frame this whole conversation. What if we've been looking at AI's limits completely wrong? What if every single thing AI is bad at is actually where our biggest opportunities are hiding? Now, I know that sounds a little backwards, but stick with me. To get why this is so powerful, we need to pop the hood and see how this engine really works. To really see the opportunity, we first have to get what AI truly is.
It isn't some kind of magic box. At its core, it's a very specific, and actually pretty understandable, kind of machine.
The engine driving most modern AI is the artificial neural network. Now, you might hear fancy terms for it, like a universal function approximator, which sounds super intimidating, I get it. But the core idea is actually really simple. Instead of being programmed with a bunch of rules, these systems, they learn. So how do they learn? Well, they learn from examples, tons and tons of them. You don't give an AI a textbook on what a cat is. You just show it millions of pictures of cats and say, that right there is a cat. And by seeing all those examples over and over and over again, the AI starts to figure out the patterns on its own. You know, the pointy ears, the whiskers, the shape of the eyes. It basically writes its own rules based on all that data. And this brings us to the most crucial point of all. An AI is, at its heart, a mapping machine. That's it. It learns how to draw a map from an input, like a photo, to an output, like the word cat, or from an...
You've heard it a million times, right? Oh, AI can't do that. It's usually said like it's the end of the story. But what if the most important part of that sentence isn't what's said, but what's left out?
So let's start with a big idea, one that's going to frame this whole conversation. What if we've been looking at AI's limits completely wrong? What if every single thing AI is bad at is actually where our biggest opportunities are hiding? Now, I know that sounds a little backwards, but stick with me. To get why this is so powerful, we need to pop the hood and see how this engine really works. To really see the opportunity, we first have to get what AI truly is. It isn't some kind of magic box. At its core, it's a very specific, and actually pretty understandable, kind of machine. The engine driving most modern AI is the artificial neural network. Now, you might hear fancy terms for it, like a universal function approximator, which sounds super intimidating, I get it. But the core idea is actually really simple. Instead of being programmed with a bunch of rules, these systems, they learn. So how do they learn? Well, they learn from examples, tons and tons of them. You don't give an AI a textbook on what a cat is. You just show it millions of pictures of cats and say, that right there is a cat. And by seeing all those examples over and over and over again, the AI starts to figure out the patterns on its own. You know, the pointy ears, the whiskers, the shape of the eyes. It basically writes its own rules based on all that data. And this brings us to the most crucial point of all. An AI is, at its heart, a mapping machine. That's it. It learns how to draw a map from an input, like a photo, to an output, like the word cat, or from an English sentence to a French one, or from a chest X-ray to a potential diagnosis. It's all about making maps.
Okay, so if an AI is just a mapping machine, what does that tell us about its limits? Well, this leads us to the single most important word in this entire explainer.
That word is yet. Every time someone says, AI can't do that, there's a silent, invisible word at the end of that sentence. And that word is yet. And inside that one little word is all the potential in the world. See, adding yet changes everything. A current limit isn't a brick wall anymore. It's just a training problem we haven't solved. A gap in the data isn't a failure. It's a huge flashing sign pointing toward an opportunity. A flaw in the design isn't a dead end. It's a creative challenge. Yet turns every limitation into a future possibility.
This is more than just a positive mindset. It's an incredibly powerful tool, especially for founders, for creators, for anyone who wants to build something new. It's how you turn gaps into gold.
And this is the core takeaway. I really want you to let this one sink in. Every single time you spot something an AI can't do, you haven't found a failure of the technology. You've found an untapped market. You've just discovered a brand new business opportunity that's waiting for someone to claim it. So that sounds great, right? But how do you actually put this into practice? Well, there's a really simple, actionable framework for turning these can'ts into real-world innovations. The process is really just 3 steps. First, find a limit. What's a valuable task that AI is currently terrible at yet? Second, you identify the gap. Why can't it do it? Is it missing the right data? Is the map from A to B just not understood yet? And third, you build the solution. You're the one who goes out, gets that data, and draws that valuable new map.
So as we wrap up here, I want to leave you with a challenge, a question that I hope will help you put this entire mindset into action, maybe even today.
I want you to stop asking, what can AI do? That's the old question. The far more interesting and way more valuable question is this:
What mapping has yet to be developed? What amazing, valuable connection between an input and an output just doesn't exist yet, but absolutely should?
Because that's where the real frontiers are. The most exciting parts of our future are still just uncharted territory. The future is unmapped. It's waiting for explorers just like you. So, go explore.
I guess y'all figured out I use Notebook LM a lot, but yeah. But getting back to this idea about transcripts, we were in a workshop about a month and a half ago, and so we were having the founders do some stuff, and I saw something interesting about what one of the founders was showing me, and so she spent about a minute or so explaining to me what her approach to prompting was. So the next day, I reviewed the transcript and I said, "What is Lanika's prompting method?" And it explained what Lanika's prompting method was just from a minute or two. And so I've been using her approach, and I actually incorporated it into our business, the lean stack, business model design planning and demand validation planning. So I just asked ChatGPT, what is my prompt approach for transcripts? So I didn't even create a GPT for this prompt approach. ChatGPT knows what the work we do with founders, and it knows what I like, how I do transcripts. And so this is what the answer it just gave me. It says, your transcript prompt analysis approach, the Lanika robust discovery method applied to conversation, interviews, and transcripts. So I do it for transcript. I do it for all our guest conversation that we have, in which those are interviews. And even when I'm talking to people, trying to figure out how to coach them and advise them. And so look how long this thing is. And so believe it or not, I could create a GPT for this and then upload the transcript. So, but I just say, well, use my prompting approach on this attached transcript. And so that's how I get my answers. So those workshops that I went to this morning and yesterday, this is the prompt that I will run on them. And so you see the first thing it talks about the system and intent, but what you're going to see here is the ChatGPT knows that we work with founders. I work with founders, and I'm always trying to figure out things to do with founders. So you see it said, treat the transcript as a discovery artifact, not a document. Reveal what the founder or speaker meant beneath the words, extract signals, insights, loops, contradictions, and opportunities. Opportunities, okay? Convert these into actionable steps for founders. So this is a hell of a lot to do just for one transcript. And so this is Lanika's approach for prompting. These principles: train for veracity, iterative thinking, context, structured artifacts, preserve good copies. Okay, here we go. Analysis structure you always request. Observation, raw signals, emotional energy. And this is, I didn't normally do this. This is what Lanika was doing: explicit pains and belief. Insights, always do the insights. What does it mean? Why does it matter? Founder behavior, what loops are operating, build, measure, learn. Because this is in the lean stack, it knows that I'm doing the lean stack. We follow that, and then it knows what are the patterns, breakthroughs, blind spots, hidden opportunities, founder archetype, validation signals, and noise. These are all things that I've been involved in over the past 3 years. And so it understands that's what I'm interested in. So as a matter of fact, this synthesis part, it knows that through some of the workshops and transcript, I talk about using Notebook LM to synthesize information. So it knows I'm interested in that. And so lately, it's after I finish analyzing some, it asks me, do I want a prompt to use in Notebook LM, to synthesize the information, because it kind of knows what we want to do. And so actions, experiments, learning goals, validation steps. And so you heard me talking about Lean Spark. And so you see a lot of this stuff is coming from that as well. And say, now look here, we're dealing with founders, so we know all the stuff we do in a lean stack: build, measure, learn, loop, story loop, customer forces loop, signal to noise, traction loop, lean sprint loop, founder loop, clarify, focus, and build. So you see how strong this just one it's just because it learned what I needed to do. Founder takeaways, and that last video I showed you was the founder takeaways. Yeah, and these are just some optional things that can do, and then do this final summary. And I typically sometimes I want a PDF, and sometimes I want to code a template. For some reason, it thinks I want a Notion template as well. And let's see, what would I like next? Okay, but that's just to kind of give you an idea the value of just analyzing and learning and getting these takeaways. And so I used to just get, and I'll close with this. I used to just get upset when somebody misstate what AI can do, because I've been working with the AI stuff since the 90s, and so you name it, I've seen it. We did warhead design, creativity machines. We did creative robots to defeat deeply buried targets, and all the stuff. You can find a lot of it on the internet, so it's nothing new. So all this stuff people saying AI can't do it, I've actually seen it. I've actually seen robots without being programmed come awake and start walking. So and just so you don't know what AI can do. But if you learn the basics, like this mapping thing, you'll see what the opportunities are. So, just dig in instead of being afraid. Take advantage of the opportunities here, and don't worry if you're not a technical founder. There's plenty technical people out there that can help you with what you're trying to do. You just can't. You just got to get into the ecosystem to get the help you need to kind of move forward. I hope this made sense to those of you that hung around. I'm always our program, our Founders Insight program. Just go to apply.kakuainstitute.org, or just go to that Kakua Institute Get Started pages and look for our Startup on the Blocks program, and we're here to help you kind of move forward with what you're doing. Don't spend months and months. We have the processes, and we can help you move forward. Appreciate you all hanging in here with me today. We'll see you all next week, and then we get some time off for Thanksgiving. Then we have a couple sessions in December, but it's a good opportunity for everyone with AI. Jump on the bandwagon, learn the opportunities they're in, and go out there and create some wealth and value for your family, and to have a legacy. See you all next week. Take care. Bye-bye.